And there I am. Hey, Larry. I was about 25 seconds off, and I got a text that someone couldn't get the Live Legends. It was because I was sitting here and just didn't start it just yet. Anyways, 99 degrees. It's me, Larry, and that's it. Humidity's down, though, today, I believe. Yeah, it's only 25%, so we're good. See, everybody just kind of bailed out, except for David. David jumped in. So we'll wait for everybody to join in. Hey there, guys. What? You guys gotta quit messing with everything. Quit messing with everything. They're not yours. That's not your stuff. Oh. And we got Robert, and we got Dennis. Howdy. Howdy. So, oh, man. Busy week. Busy, long week. Happy Labor Day weekend. Yes, I got 3 days off to repair myself from the last 5. That'll feel good. So, here we go. Start of a new week. Like I said, it's 99 degrees. It's going to heat up over the weekend and cool down again next week, but it's kind of nice. Hasn't been terrible. The mornings have been nice. How is that hot Tempe? Not the woods. Not fighting traffic this weekend. Oh, here in that hot Tempe. Yeah, I don't know. Tempe's not bad. It's not the hottest. I wonder where in the city it's the hottest. Usually Phoenix, down by downtown. Everywhere else is a few degrees cooler. So, Tempe's not bad. Even if it has Tempe Town Lake, also known as the Salta River, running through there. So, of course, we'll start off. I can't remember the other book, and the other gentleman was, I think his name was Roger. Anyways, Jason Fritsch's book, Cracking the Code on the Lost Dutchman Mine. How I uncovered the truth about the gold maps and murder. I don't remember the part about him solving the murder. Hope he's doing all right. I know he was up at Moon Lake and then had to take off from there, and we haven't heard from him since. So hopefully soon we get an update from Jason that he's doing all right. So, and the Moon Lake thing's gone. Terry Carter and them, that's a couple weeks there before dust storm. Yeah, everybody gets a dust storm here. We got a lot of rain that night too, if I remember correctly. It came down pretty good for about an hour and a half. So, big winds, everything. Yeah, once the dust, wherever the dust comes from, usually the dust storm will come from the southeast through town, because it picks up all the dust in the flat area in Casa Grande and comes up through Sacaton. Out my way, there's some mountains and stuff that break it up, so it won't come from the west so much. Are there many copies of Rick Gwynn's book floating around? I don't know. I just talked to Phil Reinhardt about it. Next time I talk to Phil, I will have to ask him how many copies they made and what happened to them all. I don't think they're numbered. Let me check here real quick. I don't think they're numbered. I think that was Jim Hatt's book. That was numbered. In Search of the Heart, Deciphering the Peralta Stones by Phil Reinhardt and Rick Gwynn. I don't think they're numbered. No. Rick signed both? Oh, Phil signed one and Rick signed the other. That's funny. I have to get Phil to sign the other one, so I have both of them on it. Yeah, I don't know how many they put out. I have to ask Phil about that. That'll be something, a future thing. Yeah, I never thought about that. How many did you make of those? I haven't seen any of them for a while. What's the cover on that one look like? It looks like this. It has the horse map on it. Oop, I gotta get it over here. Has the horse map on it. I'm sure it's in reverse. Is it? No, it shouldn't be in reverse. But yeah, it looks like that. There's Glenn. Yeah, and it just says In Search of the Heart on the top. And it has Rick and Phil's names on the bottom in small lettering. Trying to get Phil to come out and talk at the Reinhardt about this book and his relationship with Rick during that time. He's hesitant. But he came out, I think, last year. So I'll try to get him. I'd like to have a number of different people talking, some past, present, and then there'll be some people in the future. Hi, Wayne and everyone. Wanted to say it before I go back to bartending. Lacey Fix People Drinks. Yes, we need the virtual bar here, where Lacey fixes virtual drinks. There you go. Well, have a good evening. Hopefully they tip well. Remember to tip your waitresses and bartenders. I remember those words. Make sure you say that when you go on tonight. All right. So that being said and done, this week was a fun week. Talked to a number of different people through the weekend, through the week. But, and like I said, Phil Reinhardt and I had about an hour and a half conversation about some stuff. Questions I had him about him and Rick's time. And let's drink to Bob Ward. Bye. Bye, all. Bye, Lar. Bye, Lar. Okay, anyways. So, but yesterday I was up Cottonwood. And when I was in Cottonwood, I was up by the area of Bradshaw Ranch and Sedona and all that kind of stupid stuff. I hate the fact that this chair doesn't like to roll. I'm going to have to check and see if he has the locks on it. And so I decided to run in town. Always I like to look for books. I like to find odd books on odd things. And one of the things was I'd been listening to a podcast that literally was telling my stories. They told the Angie and the reptilian story. They told the Sherry Hinky or whatever story about her son finding the thing and the reptilian guy. He told another one of my stories. I'm trying to remember which one it was. But it was just like, he mentioned me once, but he's telling the stories from Chasing Legends from the October editions. And I was like, that's kind of neat, but it's kind of weird that he's got a podcast show that's based on my shows. But he did mention me. And anyway, so it kind of got in my head, well, they got all this reptilian. I got to find something on that stuff where some of these stories, something published. So I thought, well, I'll run up and go hit the bookstore, look for something on the cryptids and that kind of silly stuff. And then I went in. They didn't have many books there at the New Age Center. It's off of the highway. It has a little green aliens out front, which is always promising. And I went in. They were reading someone's aura. They were doing aura photographs and then reading them. And then they had a psychic talking to people, which I still equate today, even still. It sounded like an Italian grandma on crack going off. I was kind of laughing as I'm listening to the back and forth. Psychics getting things pretty wrong, but they don't stop. They just keep going and making excuses. And so I was listening to that, and then I found 2 books. They wouldn't have been my first choices, but I thought, they kind of fit with some stuff, and when I'm up around here, it'll give me something to do. The first one was Sedona's best Vortex guidebook. So it's the best guidebook on vortexes by Jamie Dalton. It was only like $9, so it was cheap. But it's what is it? I don't think, does it leave in less pages? It's about 65, 66 pages. It has a place you can make notes. But it just tells you where to pull over at different places the most, and gives you little drawings and where to park and how long the little hike is, which, if you notice, all the vortexes don't require much of a hike. Imagine that for a place for tourism, is you make it easy as possible for people to basically park their car and walk up. And so I thought that was it. So I thought, okay, I'll get that, because there was a whole bunch of these. There was probably, this was put out around 2000. I would say there was a couple hundred of these. None of the books from Tom Doggan, who's the Bradshaw Ranch guy and all, they were just, it was kind of weird. They didn't have their normal stuff. Maybe they were sold out or something. The other book caught my eye. Is there still an Iron Cross on display at Tortilla Flat? I think it was still there. Last time I saw, someone was talking to me about it. We were talking about it, and I remember getting the story of where it came from. Tom Collenborn told me, so that has been a while. This one caught my eye. There was probably about a dozen or so of these up there. Scientific Vortex Information. And it's by an MIT trained scientist program. Okay, well that sounds interesting. By Pete A. Sanders Jr. At that point I didn't read the rest of it at first. I wouldn't have bought it then. But I was thinking, it doesn't have any letters after his name, or he's not a professor, or doesn't have a doctorate. Okay, well, I'll just buy it. And it wasn't very much. It was only like $10-12. The bottom part that would have kept it on the shelf, because it is pretty much the same as the first book. It tells you where to go and stuff without all the mumbo jumbo. And it was how to easily understand, find, and tap vortex energy in Sedona and wherever you travel. Then I read the back after I'd bought it. I always go to the portals, but people get mad because I jump around in them. And I never go anywhere. I flap my arms too. So it says he's an honor graduate of Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And he majored in biochemical chemistry, a minor in brain science, and accepted to attend Harvard Medical, but then chose to wander around for 5 years instead of going to Harvard, and then founded what was called, it became a book, The Free Soul Method, which is the book's called You Are Psychic. Yes, we went down the rabbit hole fast, didn't we? And so then I'm sitting there going, well, I'll read it, because I don't know if he really is a scientist. Now, if you look this guy up on the internet, you'll find out what I just read you is what is written everywhere about him. He does not seem to verify anything. So where at one point he's an honors college student from MIT, he's also an MIT trained scientist. He also was accepted at Harvard, but never really went. And all of his stuff is based on string theory, which I will always tell people is, when you want to judge on that, it's called string theory because it's not a science, it's a theory, it's theoretical, and it doesn't really work with this, but I think he's talking dimensions. And, Robert, I will explain portals and this vortex stuff to you. And I'm sorry to say that if you go out, and you haven't been out for a while, and you're into this stuff, and you sit around and read these books and go hum, 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 and namaste and all this stuff, okay, cool. And you got problems, and you drive out, and you're out there in the fresh open air of Sedona, it's a beautiful day, and you get out of the car, and you walk down this short trail. It's usually anywhere from an eighth of a mile to a quarter mile. But you walk up, it has a little bit of elevation, so your cardio gets a little movement, probably more for the people that are very sedentary. And you get up there, and it's the clear blue skies and the clouds and stuff, and you sit on a rock, and you just take a deep breath, and you start relaxing, taking a deep breath in the quiet. Close your eyes, and you're a little meditative. Some of us can call it a nap. Anyways, you relax up there and all, you're going to feel good. It doesn't matter if it's what they call upshift or downshift or whatever they want to call it. You could go to Pinnacle Peak and climb Pinnacle Peak, get on the top, slow your breathing down, and you're going to get the same example. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of funny because when they describe it every time, I think of runner's high because I was a runner for many, many, many years. And when you're hiking in the mountains and you do stuff like that, we could do that at Cardiac. You get up Cardiac, and when you get to the very top, you find that there's after the third stage, a nice open area that's quiet, and there's some boulders. And if you sit there and just get very quiet and take in the quiet and the peace, it's the same effect. So what you're basically doing is getting some exercise and deep breathing some fresh, clean air and clearing your head a little. And yes, that's their vortex. Oh well. They make a lot of money from it, I guess. So I got this because when I'm in their area, I'm going to like jump around to some of these places. But the biggest problem I had was when I was leaving. I got the books, and the girl was like, "Oh, you're really interested in this," and all. So because they like that type, right? Because they want to sell you these overpriced rocks that are in there, and she tried to make small talk as I was buying them, because they like their kind. And I said, well, these are just for shits and giggles. And that kind of ended our friendship right there, because that's what they were for. But, hey, 10, 12 bucks, not a big deal. But I can go out and do these, hit these spots, and I'm sure it's going to be similar to the Superstitions. There's just not all the tourism. I will tell you this, Sedona's McDonald's, the arches are teal or turquoise. So they made McDonald's change their colors to blend in with the town. Oddly enough, Subway's still green and yellow. So I guess that's more natural colors. But it is green and yellow. But anyways, McDonald's is teal, which means I drove by the McDonald's because I didn't even catch that it was McDonald's till I got by it. Endorphins kick in. Yeah, it's just all that kind of stuff. A short hike on a nice day, Gary. Yeah, it is. And that's kind of, they could be just telling you, come on out and have some hikes. You'll feel better because you'll get your blood flowing and get some oxygen in your body. And if you relax up here and then you go back, you'll feel much better. Elephant Arch is my happy place. So I had to buy the books to see what the scientific theories are. I know about Tom Duggan and some of the other people up there. And, this guy, I thought, well, it's scientific vortex information, so I thought it might be a little of a debunking, but it would give you a kind of a fair analysis of this stuff. And this guy is full-blown down the rabbit hole. And then I started looking it up, saying, well, he did go to MIT, didn't he, really? And then I started finding people saying, well, we don't really know if he really went or graduated, even though he says at MIT. We don't know what his degree is actually really in, even though he says this is what he majored in. And then they were like, it's totally suspect because he never did really attend Harvard. So I tell people that. Trevor got accepted to Yale. And Trevor's acceptance to Yale was based on he was doing sports films. ESPN's up there at Yale. So it would have been the ESPN side of Yale, not really Yale because he was super smart, even though he was. Because he was really smart and he had high marks. But he also did sports film. They wanted him. Trevor chose, I told him, I'll pay for it. Just let me know if you want to go. And Trevor did not want to go that far. So he never did it. But Trevor's not going to, his resume doesn't say my acceptance. I was accepted to Yale. I think he did fine. And then Trevor, in his resume, when you ask him, he'll say, I graduated with a bachelor's in media, something, with a minor in psychology. My master's is from ASU, and my master's is in film, media, and studies, and so forth. And then his doctorate is in psychology and cognitive learning through Grand Canyon University. So they always describe these things. So the fact that this guy's I suddenly realized, okay, I got I spent the money on a book. He's the closest thing to a scientist, I guess, in Sedona. So there it is, and found a copy of Chuck Kenworthy's books for selling them for $4.95. Is this a bar? I would hold off. What a copy of what book is it? Because the Superstition Museum sometimes carries some of them. Which book is it? Please, Phil, tell me. But if someone gets something good out of it, and it's only $5 to have the pass to go to all those places, and you just want to hike a little and get some fresh air and all that, I don't find anything wrong in it if people go there and think, oh, this is really pretty and I enjoy this. It's just the traffic there really sucks. The roundabouts are really annoying, and the food everywhere is way overpriced. Those are good books to read at Teal Archies. They're, yeah, I was really just kind of thrown off as I was like, you know what? I got the books and stuff, and I was thinking about doing it. And I thought, nah, I want to get something to eat. I'm going to get some Subway. And then I was like, man, how do you find a Subway or McDonald's or Arby's in Sedona? Because they don't, it's like some places will not allow those. And then I was driving and I was looking, and I could not find it. Yeah, I know you said $4.95, but which book is it? Here, hold on. Let me get my Kenworthy selections. You can tell me if it's one of these. I don't think I spent very much on any of these. There's Unfound Treasures of Mexico, Espanol in Spanish. That one. And then there's Treasure Secrets, Lost of the Lost Dutchman, Interview with the Peralta Gonzalez Family. There's that one. I don't know if it says how much they were. I don't have tags on them anymore. Well, this one says it was 15. This one, I used to have a bunch of extra copies of these, and I gave them to the Rendezvous. This one doesn't say. And then Treasure Signs, Symbols, Shadows, and Sun Signs. There's that one. And that one was $5. I think the museum, they used to all be $5 or $10. And this is the Death Traps to Treasure, Spanish and Mexican Mines. And there you go. So that's the 4 I got. I think that's all of them. I don't know. I'm not sure. Someone would have to tell me. But yeah, it's there's just way too many people, and it's way too many people. The shopping is just ridiculous. Find a place to park, get and get yourself just something to eat cheap. I can't remember where we ate there last time. I think we got out of town before we pulled over and found a place and grabbed some burgers. But head back to Cottonwood or something. Cottonwood's only 15 miles south? It's not very far. It's only 10, 12 minutes away. But and you don't have to go through as many roundabouts going to Cottonwood. Now, going east, you have to go through 430 freaking roundabouts to get out of Sedona. Most ridiculous thing in the world. It's like you get dizzy trying to get out of there. Oh, so $4.95. Yeah, so that's the 4 I know of. I don't know of any others. I'd have to look and see if I'm missing any others. So I wouldn't. And I think usually the museum has a few on hand of different ones, and they're usually $5 or $10. So like I said, I paid $15, but the one I think that was $15, I think, one of the producers for Legends bought, because I didn't have that one. And I was going to buy it. We were filming with Frank, and they went in to film George Johnston. And when they went in to film George and do a little interview segment with George, I went over, was looking through the books, and I walked over to the counter to buy a book, and the producer took it from me and said, "What is this?" And he said, "We got it." And then he paid for it, made sure the line producer paid for it and gave it back to me. Because I just the main thing was I wanted something to read while I was sitting outside waiting on them to film. I've been reading about the Salazar surveys, Weaver's Needle called by the people that want to call it El Sombrero. It's called El Sombrero by the people that want to call it El Sombrero. There's several other places people call El Sombrero. So if you want to believe it's El Sombrero, that's what people call it. Does that make sense? So the guys that believe it's El Sombrero call it El Sombrero. Everyone calls it Weaver's Needle regardless. So they'll say something like, well, Weaver's Needle, El Sombrero. There's other sombrero type mountains in them mountains. So I never thought it looked much like a sombrero, the Mexican. And the other one that's always called is, people didn't refer to it as El Sombrero. They call them the Mexican hat. So there's one up by Red Mountain too. They call the Mexican hat. Hey, Dallas, we haven't touched base. Dallas was working on the car, and I tried to call him to talk to him. Because sometimes there's things that I won't text and won't talk about here, whatever, but privately I will talk. And Dallas sometimes asks questions, and it has to be a one-on-one conversation for us to discuss it. And he asked a question, and we weren't able to talk about it. So Dallas lost out. So I still know the answers, and he doesn't. Anyways, so that's the Chuck Kenworthy stuff. And nobody told me, Phil didn't say which Kenworthy book it was. Okay, so there it is. But I used to have at least 2-3 copies of every one of these. And then the profile map. Yeah, but that's just someone wrote that. The Kenworthy books, I used to have quite a few of them because they would always have them like for $5, and if they were $5, I'd buy 2 or 3 of them. And then the Rendezvous, we'd use them in the raffle because most people don't go down to the museum, and I don't know who's publishing them because they were coming in and they were brand new editions. So I don't know if you can tell. Well, this one definitely is because, yeah, it's different because the earlier ones had stickers for the ISBN, and the newer ones, it's part of the book. So someone's still publishing them, and the Kenworthy family's still out there and around. But they don't tell you any editions or anything. And they were from the 90s. I don't know. Doug Stewart would know the answers to this stuff, possibly. I don't know who else would. But yes, this term El Sombrero is the same as the Mexican hat. And there's a couple other names. And so, what were they digging for at the paint mine? Clay, the red paint. People say that there was some gold or something there, some copper, but the main reason that paint mine was originally started in the pit was dug was by the Salado or the Hohokam, and it was for the red paint for the pottery that you find in Garden Valley. And they can use the clay for that, and then they can make reddish markings. There used to be able to find good sized chunks with the reddish in it. So that was what it was mainly about. Chuck made all his money in real estate and treasure. Sorry, I lost signal. The Kenworthy book, Spanish monuments and trail markers to treasure. I don't know if I got that one. I'd have to look through. These are the 4 I had together. I knew where these were. So I had the Dutchmans and those books. But yeah, the Superstition Museum. But yeah, that is a problem with a lot of these people. They get on there in the books and they sell these books so jacked up. And I had that conversation with Larry one day, and I always try to tell people, don't spend tons of money on some of these books. They will come around and someone will sell you. The Rendezvous, we just do them in the raffle. And some of them are books that people want $200-$300 for. And it just is, I know it's a raffle, so there's a chance you won't get it. But there's plenty of these books around. There's a reason. If they were popular, they're very easy to find. We'll someday go through some of the books that are the hardest to find, and I'll bring them out. And maybe I'll do a Chasing Legends on it, the ones that are really, really difficult. And if you see them, it's just dependent on what you think of the book, too. God's Greatest Creation with the DeGrazia stuff, I found mine, and mine actually is signed, I think, by the author and DeGrazia. And it was only, I should pull it out, I think was only 1,000 copies. Oh, man, I'm getting up a lot today to look at books. Oh. Dahlman's book. This is a hard one to find. It was originally only $8.95. It has a little sleeve on it, but I'm trying to see. 1,000 copies. Permission to replicate 1,000 copies granted. So there, I don't know how many were in the initial, and then there was 1,000 copies more made. This is part of those copies, but yeah, this one's a tough one to find. And it's a nice book. Dallman did a nice job about his packing and his relationship with Ted, and then Ted did some sketches and stuff in it. So it's a really nice book. But if you're really into the superstitions and the Dutchman, not so much wanting information, but you're kind of a fan of DeGrazia and all those things, and you have all these books, this is a really nice book to have because it's a nice story. It's a very relaxing, nice story to read. So, again, books can have different values. We used to go down Schnebley Hill on a Jeep Still Far ride. The fluoride mine got washed out and revealed a huge vein. There's a cool video of it from one of the storms a couple weeks ago. Yeah, that'll happen with rain. Rain will wash things out and clean things out and push things through. Except when springs and sometimes things get clogged up, and then you need one of those major, huge storms come through. Yeah, Kenworthy's book, I would think you could find Kenworthy's stuff. Like you can still find first editions of Sims Ely with the dust covers, and you can still find Barry Storm's books with the dust covers, first editions. And I would say almost in pristine condition. Never pay more than 60, 70, 80 bucks for one of those. And if it doesn't have the dust cover, but it's in really good condition, it's a first edition, I'd say 30, 40 bucks. Hey, Jax. Hey, buddy. All right. Was Ward there when DeGrazia buried his paintings or just dropped? No. Bob Ward was pretty open that they never went searching together, but DeGrazia would stop by, and Tom talked about that. Ted would stop by and visit with people and talk Dutch talk. They never spent any time in the mountains together, but one day DeGrazia said he wasn't feeling up to it. He asked Ward if he'd go with him and give him a hand, and they went up to Fish Creek, and they buried the maps or the paintings together. So that day they did do that. A lot of people have had controversy on it. I think Bob did that, and DeGrazia did show up because he put a map in the book. He included an extra map with the book, and then later he released a third map. And then he did drawings for people trying to get someone to find the damn paintings. I think he thought it was cool till he realized people weren't smart enough to figure out. He made it too tricky for anyone to find. And then I think he was frustrated because he wanted someone to find that stuff. It would be promotion for his book. And there's still a pallet full of his books. So it would have helped sell his book for someone to find that stuff. And by someone not finding it, it didn't help the book. Is Robert McKee the guide who was with Julian Reinhardt during their first trips to the mountains? Yes. Yes. He was. What happened was, I think, there were several different people that tried to help them when they were trying to go in the mountains because they realized they didn't know anywhere to go. And everyone they were trying to go out with, they were going a different direction. I think he's the one that went with them out towards Hog Canyon. And that didn't go well either. But they just kept making trips. I think it was after McKee and a couple other people, because McKee's one of the few people that was searching for what would become the Lost Dutchman. And that meant he got some information off of them. And he continued to do so. And then they continued, and then they let's drink to Hog Canyon. I don't know. But then he became in the papers later talking about it. So he must have got what he thought was enough information that he could go out and strike it on his own. And then he started going to the mountains. And that's probably once he decided, you know what, I don't need those two guys. They're a bunch of rookies, amateurs, tenderfeet. I'm going to be able to do this on my own. Is he abandoned helping Julian Reinhardt pretty quick. And then he was in the papers talking. He was searching for the mine. And then, of course, they went and they got Herman, and Herman brought Godfried. And then that started that whole group going in. And off and on, it was different versions of that. I think they only did the 1 or 2 trips with Julia, the whole group. And then they decided, we got to get rid of the Julia girl. But I know Herman and Reinhardt, and there was a number of stories. Bob Garman had some stories about their first trips too. But it's hard, that was one thing. And Tom was too young, and I don't know if his dad ever wrote anything in detail. His dad knew Herman pretty well. But none of these guys that knew Herman ever tried to get a chronological order of the times they went in. We just know some of what they went in. And Tom knew some stuff, because there was one day we were talking, and someone was saying something, and Tom was like, no, it's not... They didn't go in. They ended up kind of working their way in, and they went through Brush Corral and Bull Pass area, and the blah 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 blah. And he talked about it, and we were all like, "Huh? Why would they do that?" And he said, "I don't think they had a clue. I think every time someone gave them some information on how to do something." They started going a different direction, which was a problem, because most of us would say, "Hey, Tony, okay, let's get down to the board house, let's get down to the quarter circle U, and let's start following the directions from here." Well, they didn't know where that was. By the time they figured out where that place was when they rode out and they rode down to it. So that's towards the end of their trips. That was the last trips, where they discovered where Barks Ranch was and where Jim was set up, and they stayed there, which I think also was another problem for them. So I don't think they knew not only the geography, they didn't know where anything really was, and by the time they figured it out, I think they were just done with each other. And of course, the summer times, they did the one summertime trip, which was ridiculous, because all they did was search early in the mornings, and then they just laid around for 20 hours a day, and then they were like a month doing that. But Tom knew some stuff, I think, from his dad, and some stuff from Andy Sinbad, because Andy Sinbad and Carl Broderick were good friends with Herman. And then Tom had some good information. I'm trying to remember who else. But that was always problematic, and Tom and I did talk about it once, is like, it would have been nice for someone to get Herman, even though he wouldn't have known the first trips, the first early months, he would have been able to kind of give you a chronological idea of what happened. The problem is most of it's speculation, and then people try to pull from the newspaper article, aha. But there was a lot they were trying to do, because they really thought they were just going to run in and get it. They thought at first, no problem. Okay, a little bit of a problem. Wow, there's a lot more problems. This is a lot different than I thought. Jim Bark probably had the best information, because I think Jim Bark probably asked, okay, Reinhardt, what did Waltz tell you? I think he got a little more exact. But yeah, it's funny, because as much as we sit back and look now back at it, I think it's because of all the stuff that happened and went on, people got the bad information, because everybody kept thinking, oh, well, I don't need to know about this stuff. But it was important. How long was it going to take Julie and them to get to the mountains? How long were they going to be in the mountains with Waltz? Blah, 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 blah. How many with supplies? So taking all those things into account, and then you have to remember, the Julia Thomas Reinhardt Petrash story is the quiet story. That's the story until Sims Ely, until Barry Storm starts talking about it a little, and then Sims Ely. The story that's out all the time is the Holmes story. It's Dick Holmes talking to the newspapers and saying, yeah, I sat with Waltz and all this stuff. And his story is so convoluted and so wrong that by the time you get to the Thomas Petrash story, it's like two different things. It's like crazy. And suddenly Jim Bark is talking about Walt's petition to become a citizen and his citizenship papers and all this other stuff. And you're like, hold on a second. Brownie Holmes' dad claimed Waltz wasn't a citizen and all this stuff. And then you're finding out. So Jim Bark did really on point, and we didn't know about the Bark notes still for a while longer. But that all changed everything. So by the time you got in the 60s and 70s, the Holmes stuff had dropped off. If Thomas Glover hadn't released the Holmes manuscript, it would have kind of stayed way low on the radar, because it was the most disinformation anybody had. And then once the people that knew the Petrash stuff and all that, and knew God, I'm trying to remember his name now. Um, John. Anyway, Jim Bark's nephew, John Spangler, and a lot of those guys, the people that knew that information, you were finding were much different Dutch hunters. And they always act like there was a feud, and I don't think there was much of a feud, because I think the Patrash Thomas people that kind of followed that mainly looked at the Holmes guys that just kind of thought Brownie was like the second coming of Jesus. They thought those guys are silly. And Brownie could have been a nice guy and stuff, and I don't think he wanted to be, revered, and so maybe he did. He maybe liked the attention, but yeah. Okay, in Jack's book, what book? Cavanis had a milk house down Whitlow Canyon. Before moving to the quarter circle U. Matt Cavanis had a dairy farm. It's missing. It's down by the other ranch sheds. It was a short distance. It was a mother-in-law house and a dairy shed. I will tell you that. We know about where it was, but not exactly. It was a different group that had the milk ranch, and it was a different family. I don't know which book of Jack's you're talking about, but yeah, so maybe Waltz was referring to that board house. Well, that I don't think so. There was, they called it the goat farm or whatever, but anyways, he was had goats there, and his wife was there, but it was gone by the time him and his wife had separated. So and it's east of the quarter circle U. It's back in the canyon that way. It was part of the other properties, and I remember talking to a couple different people, and no one knows exactly where it was. It was gone so long ago. But that was part of it. But the milk ranch, I can't remember the family that's attached to that. It was a completely different group of people. God, I'm trying to remember now. I had that. I know Tom kind of wondered if that, but he didn't. I don't think he attached it to Matt Cavanis. I think it was attached to someone else, another family. I'd have to look it up. Do you think Celeste Jones had Weaver's Needle confused with Victoria Peak, thinking it could be? Who knows? She had a lot of things confused. The only person to ask about details, and I don't think we're ever going to get that story, Lost El Dorado. Okay. I got a couple copies of that from Jack, don't I? I got Finding El Dorado. There's Lost El Dorado. But the problem with Celeste Jones is, Bob Corbin's probably one of the last people that knew her really well, and he did work for her for a while. So unfortunately, we don't have Bob in the frame of mind that I don't know what he could really tell us. I tried to get him to talk a bit about it, but Bob always wants to talk about other things, politics and other things. But I tried to ask him a few questions to see if I could get him into it, and I wanted to sit down with him and just ask him about his relationship with Celeste Jones, where it's not just what he initially says, but he relaxes and starts talking, going down memory lane, because he spent a lot of time around there with her, and I'm sure there's a lot there, but I don't think he's ever going to write it, and I don't think he's really going to be in a mind to ever talk about it again. You won't understand what it means till you see the mine. Okay. Iron Mountain is what Patrash said. Reddit said in his... No, he didn't. He didn't say Iron Mountain. He knew where Iron Mountain was, and he coasted, Here, I'm going to tell you something, Robert. And buy Bob Garman's book. The last people Herman was working with, and through his entire life, there's a pattern. And the last people, and it's not Ironi, it's Irion. So you can call it Iron Mountain, but the I is after the R, if you want to call it by the original name, Irion. Herman sent Bob Garman and his guys into the mountains to look for the Lost Dutchman mine. Garman was only doing it out of a friendship, occasionally doing this as a favor to Herman. Herman would be like, can you go check this spot? Can you do this spot? And so they were going in. If you read Garmin's book, his last trip in for Herman, he tells you specifically exactly where he was and where Herman was searching for the lost Dutchman mine. And he's very clear on that, and you understand that. And then they came back, Herman was dead, and he basically says that was the end of that whole trip, and that was the end of all this. And then I went to looking for silver because he was done. So, what? Which Bob Garman book? It's the only book he wrote, and it's Bob Garman, Garman. I don't know. Now you're making me look for books off the bookshelf. Pull them. I'll remember to pull it next time. But yeah, Bob Garman wrote a book. It's red. Perhaps because he hooked up with the Tumlinsons, but he knew Herman. There's also interview tapes and stuff, which we've never pulled together. We got to get those. I've always told Trevor we need to put together like a little slideshow of the Superstitions and then put some of the interviews up. And Bob Garman's is pretty interesting because he knew Herman for quite a while and they hung out a lot together. Did Bob Corbin know Robert Sikorsky when he went? Yeah, he would have met Sikorsky. Well, he wouldn't have known him really that well because Sikorsky wasn't around too long. But he knew Celeste Jones and Louie, and he knew Ed Pipe. He knew everybody involved. And yeah, Corbin was back in there that whole time. So, but yeah, Corbin was really, really tight in there with it. Tom knew her. Tom didn't seem to think a lot of her. And all of them, I think Tom was pretty young, and he was a little more grounded at the time. So I would think their perceptions were very different. I think it would be interesting to hear what Garman had to say. But Celeste Jones, I remember Tom telling me, Celeste Jones would always tell Tom when he came through that when I find the treasure, I'm going to get you back into college and pay for your education and everything. He said she was very nice about it. She was crazy, as batshit crazy, but he said she was very nice and everything. Do you believe the only way you can find the lost Dutchman mine is to write a book about it? This year we'll have several people talking how they found the lost Dutchman. We've had a couple times we've had several people talking. I think the Rendezvous has had all told probably around 20-25 people who have found the lost Dutchman in 20 to 25 different places. There have also been a number of people that have found the Jesuit treasure. None of them have produced anything from it. I don't mean to laugh, but that was a conversation I had with someone this week on, oh, by the way, I don't know if I want to get up and talk because people will, and I'm like, come on. How many people have we had talk about they found the lost Dutchman over the years? There's been a couple people bailed out, and I've talked about them. They said they would be there, and then they decided not to show up. Last year we had that problem. I think it was last year. The person that came in and had like an hour talk, and they had it all set up, and they had the slideshow and everything for us, and so we brought everything for it, and then they didn't bother to. They just called and said, oh, I don't think I can make it. And that sucked because it kind of took, so we had to adapt and change. And we did fine, and we had a good program, but that kind of sucked, But people do bail out because they're, and now he's back talking how he found it again. But, I mean, you screwed me once. I don't know about opening that door again for you, bud. Did Bob Gardner partner up with the Mullins? Well, they were all partners because they were looking for silver mines. The Mullins brothers, and it was Jesse and Hart. There was another guy, and I can't remember his name. Yeah, they were all down in that area. They all loved Hewitt in that area and all that kind of stuff. Have Shame come talk. No, don't even bring up his name. He'll pop up here, and then he'll get on his Bigfoot and what is it? He finds the boar skins full of gold coins and the Ark of the Covenant, and then he finds other things. It's crazy, man. Crazy stuff. You know what we need to do? Here, I will put this out there. Shane Gorell. I want you to come to the Rendezvous. You're always invited to come to the Rendezvous, Shane. I know you might be out there bugging. But Shane Gorell, come to the Rendezvous. And I want you to bring your ultralight. And we will make sure there's a clear path for you to get on your ultralight and fly. And we want to see you get in your ultralight and fly. That's what we want to see. We'd love to see Shane fly away into the mountains on his ultralight. Mystery Gold, the Superstition 75. Yes, that's it. And unfortunately, Bob Garman on his interviews could have wrote a much better book. But he got waylaid by Robert Tumlinson and Travis and them and that. Where are the you're not, I'm what, no, it's I'm Wayne Tuttle, you're not. I'm not Wayne Tuttle shirts. That's Trevor's deal. David and Lacey got me the I'm Wayne Tuttle and you're not shirt, so, which I'm very proud of. There's two of them, in fact, too. They didn't know what size I would take, so they got me two different sizes. And Trevor can wear one because his middle name is Wayne. So there, Trevor is quite proud, even though he's not that much lighter than me. So, and don't ever say, Robert, about not inviting, because we invite everybody's welcome. I don't mind if someone wants to get up and talk. They have to. I'm learning more and more of like how to guide people on their discussions and their talks, because people come in ill-prepared. Most people have done fine. Some people would sit there and go, "Why? I remember that guy. Why?" It wasn't bad. I think people have done a nice job, and there's been a lot of people that have done a nice job about their solution to the Lost Dutchman mine. And I would go over it and say, you know what, over the years, there's been a lot of people have good talks about how they found treasure and different things and their success. So there you go. I'd like to find a cryptid guy, but I'm not going to invite Kreider. Man, no way. He seems to go off really weird. So, sorry, Mr. Kreider. But, yeah, you seem to, like, kind of have weird moments. And we don't need anybody that volatile. She can be on some nice mellow, tripping stuff. Yeah, I always want to find something different. I think the thing that went down the worst all time was probably Jack Sanfelice's ghost hunting talk. Nobody even said that was terrible. Everybody just went, why? Why, Wayne? I said, Jack really wanted to do it, because Jack's doing a book on that stuff now, but at the time I think he was working on a book and he was really into it. And that was a problem, because everybody sat there and Jack became one of the main speakers, and I think that's the one where I did the Julia Thomas talk before him. And the Julia Thomas talk went down really well. And I can't remember who was before me, but it was really good Dutchman research talk. And Jack got up and talked about ghosts. And it just didn't work. His energy didn't work with the subject matter that night. And I didn't think he was terrible or did bad, but yeah, it did not resonate. We have a lot more people into that kind of stuff at the Rendezvous, Dutch hunters that kind of have a foot over that way, or at least that like to play in the silliness. At that time, I think the 100 or so people that listened to Jack talk, there was probably non-believers in that audience, and that did not help. I can come talk about the mermaid I caught off the coast of Atlantis. See, that's where we go bad. Atlantis is at Doggerland. Yeah, that's the thing you have to watch out for. But I always want to have something curveball. It's interesting. Terry Carter had some really cool stories. We got Terry to talk one year about a few things he'd been involved in. Because Terry's been involved in some crazy stuff. And we had a number of different people talk about their treasure digs and stuff. That was a year we had like 7 or 8 guest speakers. That was Thomas Glover was supposed to be our guest speaker, and he had this whole subject thing, and everything was set up, and we had someone else coming in, and they canceled that day, so we thought, okay, and I said, well, we'll do this and this, and then Thomas talks like for an hour and a half, so we're good. He'll do a 2-parter, we're good. And then Thomas, just about 20 minutes before we're supposed to go, Someone tells me, oh, by the way, Thomas just got a hold of us and said he's not making it. And we were like, oh, crap. He didn't let us know. And so that was like, oh, damn it. So then he did come back and do, I think, that lecture a couple of years later. But yeah, that one kind of killed us that night, because that was a scramble where I just grabbed some random people, and Terry Carter was one. And I was like, okay, can you talk? You were talking to me earlier about this story. Can you do 10, 15 minutes of that? Oh, yeah, okay. You'll be number 2. Okay, Terry, I'm going to have you number 4. And then we just did that, and that's what we did. And it was a pretty good program. That was the one that Tom Collenborn said, you know what, Glover's too long-winded. That actually was more fun to listen to because it was different voices every 15, 20 minutes, and it changed up. And Tom said, I liked that. That was, he enjoyed that better. And that's when we decided, okay, we'll quit doing such long talks. Last year, Jack Carlson got sleepy and wanted me to stop. But yeah, we had to stop doing the really long talks. And trust me, it can be rough when you're sitting there, you're tired at the end of the day, and it's been two hours of someone telling you about research. Has anyone ever heard of Dan Dillman other than me? No, I do not know who Dan Dillman is. Somebody's horn went off. Somebody's breaking into something. That wasn't my truck. I know my horn. So we're getting down towards the end. But it's been good. I don't know Dan Dillman. You tell me, introduce me, tell me who Dan Dillman is. I'll reach out. I'll try to get Dan Dillman or whatever Dan Dillman's done. We tried to get the guy from, we've tried a couple times. I don't know if Larry's still there. But we tried to reach out and see if we could get the guy, one of the guys. Well, we do get Josh. But someone to talk about his science, his exploration stuff, who was with Blind Frog Ranch. I've tried to get someone from Skinwalker. I've tried it, not so much to talk about there he is. So we've tried to always get someone different, because it's nice to have the real weird different thing in there, that it's a little interesting to hear that side if we can get them to do it for 15, 20 minutes, because it allows you perspective, and I like perspective. I like to hear about stuff. If I didn't, being the asshole I am about paranormal stuff, I wouldn't own these kind of books. I buy them, I read them. I may not believe them, I might find a lot of problems with them, but as far as P. Sanders Jr. is, he can't say a damn thing, because you know what? I bought your book. I read your book. I read it twice. But I bought your book, so sit down, take a seat. We can have a talk. I don't know if I could have him talk, because I think everybody would lynch me for having a guy talk about vortexes. I think cryptids, the way the ghosts went down, some of the stuff. I think I can get away with some stuff. Vortexes and portals, I think I would be a goner. I think, they would haul me up and all that. Terry knows him, Wayne. Maybe he can get you in touch with him. Well, yeah, Terry, I don't know. So I like the way Terry talks. I think Terry could tell you 1,001 great tales. And the problem is Terry doesn't want to get up and talk a lot. And, Terry has Terry has phenomenal stories. And getting Terry to kind of open up and talk about that stuff is tough. But I would like Terry to get up and talk about the beginnings and all, and how he got interested in that sort of thing. But I don't think he ever will. I will just show up to have a good time. See, that's the best thing. Hopefully some good comes out and we have a good time. We always have a good time. We have chili dogs, we have chili, we have a good time. Woody Wampler will be speaking, John Wayne Galloway, Tom Van will be speaking, I'm trying to remember his name, Harry Bascom will be speaking, Jason Fritsch will be speaking, I'll be speaking in my little piece or whatever. Woody Wampler will be doing a prospecting class that I would recommend to everybody to take part in. And then the Forestry Service will be out for whatever they put together for us. So it'll be a lot of stuff from the morning to the afternoon, and whatever little hike we do. There should be a lot to kind of take in. And what I'm trying to stylize it, I'm still hoping to find something a little different to insert. So there's something a little different, on all that. So, kind of give us a little different perspective or break up all the people who found the Lost Dutchman mine. But we'll see. And we might do something different, like the raffle this year is about midway, close the raffle, and then in between some of the last guest speakers do a few, and then do a few, instead of having that big, long at the end. Maybe that's the way to do it, kind of build the tension. Same here, Robert. Can't wait to see everybody at the Rendezvous. We always have a great time. I think everybody has a good time. If you go in not having a good time, then you're not going to have a good time. Is the guy from Utah whose family followed Freddie Crystal deal believes the stone maps lead to the Utah Montezuma treasure? I might know that. I've heard of the guy. I might know what you're talking about. Now that you're giving me that part of the story, now it sounds more familiar. Phil retracted what he was going to say. I don't know why Robert and Larry are all happy. And are you going to raffle a few gold panning pans? We can do that. I can always have those. It's just kind of when we get to this year we're a little ahead. I'll be there at the Rendezvous. You want anything from Chicago, Wayne? Bobby Benzel. I'd like Bobby Benzel to be there from Chicago. I'll put you that straight up. So if you're there, that's the only thing from Chicago I think we'd all like to see. Well, no, I was going to say Paul Shimmick, but he's from Wisconsin. But no, you make it. That's all you had to bring. Bring yourself, and we're all good. So there you go, Bobby. All good. I'm going to get out of here. Dan Dillman's deciphered the Peralta Stones, the Treasure Lakes, Utah. Okay, pay dirt panning. Well, there's always that. Woody always donates pay dirt stuff. So, okay, yeah. Well, we want you to show up. And, yeah, it's like we don't need anything from Chicago. I got Chicago right here, and you can't pull off the Cubs. They're just doing their thing right now. So everybody have a great weekend. I'm going to get out of here. I got a grocery pickup. And then I don't know what's for dinner tonight. Trevor was in Tucson all week, and now he's working, I think, a football game. So when he's done with that, he'll be home. So I don't know if there's dinner plans. I hope that we're not waiting too late, because I'm kind of hungry now. But everybody have a great weekend. Catch Chasing Legends on Monday. Rendezvous November 14th, 15th, 16th. We'll have the gates open by 11:12. Gave you a thumbs up. Thank you. Thanks as always, and have a great weekend. Yeah, everybody else, have a good weekend. I've got to shovel a lot of rock, so I'm going to shovel some rock. But yeah, it is what it is. Work a few pounds off. So everyone have a good time. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe. Get yourselves ready for the Rendezvous. I'm going to make history at the Rendezvous. I'm going to get Greg Davis to pet my dog. I can tell you, Greg Davis will go away, just leave me alone. Remember those words, and then watch Greg. Yes, to this day, it's so funny. He's not a cat person. He's just not an animal person. I don't know why we're friends. All right, everybody, have a good night. We will catch you around on the next side. So, hasta la vista, and hola, and all the good stuff that comes with it. And like I said, I don't know how to finish this. I got to come up with a good finish. We got to come with an outro. I told Trevor that. I got to come up with an outro that just rolls in, and instead to shut me up. But anyways, thank you, everybody. Do appreciate all the views on the videos, the channel, everything, and everybody that shows up, the 500-600 people that watch this crazy thing every Friday. Thank you so much, because I do appreciate it. Secrets of the Stone Tablets in Search of Montezuma Treasure YouTube documentary. I'll keep it in mind. I'll look at it and see if it's the same person I think. I think I'm thinking the same person. All right. So thank you very much. We will catch you all later. Until the next time, have a